All right, ladies and gentlemen, happy, who knows, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Not really sure when you're going to be listening to this, but it is time for Podcast PD. My name is Chris Nessie, at Mr. Nessie on Twitter, host of the House of EdTech podcast, and I am joined, as always, by my podcast compadres, Stacey Lindis and AJ Bianco. AJ, you got here on time, so you could go first. How you doing, AJ?
Wow, I was on time. I'm always on time.
I was on time.
You were on time, but you were like, so I was on time. I was 15 minutes early, which is actually on time.
I was filling out forms.
Forms.
Back to school forms. Anyway, I digress.
Anyway, we're here, and we're happy to be here, and doing well on this as we record Sunday for the live people.
Yeah, we're live on YouTube, Periscope, in our Podcast PD Facebook group. Of course, if you want to join in on the party, you're going to want to go to podcastpd.com/live, participate in the YouTube chat. Really, I mean, anywhere you're watching, you can participate in the chat. So as we're talking through the episode tonight, let us know what's up, how you doing, contribute to the conversation. And if you want to be a part of the show, go to podcastpd.com/join, and we'll be happy to punch you up, which means put you on screen, not punch you in the face.
As they doesn't
AJ,
sound
things are good. Yeah, we're a friendly group here. AJ, you good?
I'm living the dream, man. Things are good here as we head to the end of August. I don't know if I can say that again. So, end of August.
What the hell did you just say?
It's the end of August, man. Like, I can't believe it's the end of August.
Yeah.
Yeah, March break is almost over.
That's a good one. How long are we working on that one?
I found it on the internet.
All right, everything's on the internet.
Speaking of things I found on the internet, Stacey, how are you?
I'm all right. Speaking of things I found on the internet, I finally got access to my kids' forms. So I was filling those out because they're due tomorrow. They were due on Friday, but you know, when you turn power school off, you can't really fill out forms on the due date. And I am last minute Larry when it comes to filling out those kinds of forms. But I can't pick up my school issued Chromebook for the boys on Tuesday unless I fill out those magical forms.
This is forms for your own biological children.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we get their Chromebooks, which both of them are like, what do we need that for? I was like, look, it's a good backup. We don't know how long we're going to be home for. So, yeah, I did that. And then had a good run today. It was a beautiful day here in New Jersey before it rained. I didn't realize it was raining until I got in my car, like that it was supposed to be raining. And I drove and I was like, I'm driving towards rain. I was running towards rain, but I didn't notice. So, yeah, all's good.
What makes a run good?
Weather.
Like ice cream at the end of it?
There used to be ice cream at the end of it, but when I couldn't outrun the weight gain, it ended. So today's weather was beautiful. It was like 80 degrees at like 85 at the highest, but that's not when I went running. And then there was a nice breeze. I went on the trail, so there were shady spots. It was 4.5 miles. It was the longest 4.5 miles I've ever run, but yeah. I'm almost done training, and then I run my 10K on August 31st. So the last day of the month, I will run my 10K, my Wonder Woman 10K.
That's
Sick.
the virtual one, right?
Yeah. I already got my swag though. So I'm excited. Yeah.
That's awesome. I saw that race advertised ad nauseum on Instagram.
Did you? Probably because I took a picture and like hashtagged it or something.
Probably.
Chris, you gonna do the Yankee one?
No, because I do
Come on.
CrossFit. So no.
If you do the Yankee one, I'll do it with you.
All right, we'll talk off air.
Yes. I don't want to run though. Can I just do the lawn, like do laps back and forth?
Why don't we do the 10K as a 10K home run trot? We'll just trot.
There we go. Sounds good.
we'll
the Aaron Judge. We'll do the Aaron Judge. I like it.
There you go.
Chris, how are you?
Things are, good. I didn't attempt to go for a run in the rain. As we got near the end of the day, we attempted to go on a scooter ride as a family. 2 scooters, 2 people on each scooter. And then it started to rain, so Colton and I took the bat cycle back to the bat cave. So there you go.
And if you think he's joking when he calls it the bat cycle, you should check out his Instagram page. It is actually the bat cycle.
The Jersey Shore bat cycle. The other thing, tech-wise, I was playing with SketchUp today, as I do maybe once a year, and I am designing a ground level deck for the backyard of EdTech. So I was designing a deck, so that'll be fun.
Cool.
Sweet. Something different.
Something
Yeah.
different.
What are you making out of wood?
Yeah, it'll be
I don't know.
pressure treated lumber to make the frame, and then
Real
we'll
wood,
get
fake wood,
some
like-
composite Trex to
There
do
you
the
go.
decking
Yeah, Trex.
surface.
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Yes,
Got it.
absolutely. Speaking of authentic and real and not composite, welcome to this episode of Podcast PD. Today's topic, the episode, it's our back to school special. Wait, hold on.
I'm excited.
Yes, and so are all of us, because it's time to go back to school. Back to school.
I don't know about you, but I have 2 weeks.
Well, some people we know are already in school.
I know, and we have a guest who is in school.
We do have a guest, so tonight we are talking all about back to school, your best tips, tricks, hacks, strategies, how you can start the school year off on the right foot. Or if you're a lefty, there you go.
On your
So
left foot.
joining us right off the bat, we have a brand new friend of the podcast. We'd like to welcome in Shay. Shay, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
There you go.
That's
Hey,
how
tell
we
us a
like to
little bit
do it.
about yourself.
All right. So I'm in California, Northern California. Just like in New Jersey, there's a big distinction between Northern California and Southern California, or different regions. So I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for, this is my 15th year of teaching. I got in a little late. After undergraduate school, I worked at a .com, like a lot of people in California, and ended up getting a little burned out. Decided to go into teaching. Although I'm reminded of what my high school soccer coach would say. Would say, "Oh, coach, we're burned out," and he'd say, "You were never on fire." But anyways, so happy to be here. Yeah, finishing up we just finished our first week of school here in California.
Good. And so just a little side note, Shay and I know each other from Facebook. We become Facebook friends through a little group called Field Nuts, which is a Facebook group about notebooks. My little notebooks that
Stacey, it's a judgment-free zone. We
that
talk
I
about
absolutely
pens.
see. Look, they're all on hand.
See? Yep, right here.
Wait, hold on.
Oh.
Wait. Oh, I can put up a field notes too.
Oh.
AJ, where are your field notes?
I use a rocket book,
God.
so I got this. That's all. That's what I got.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sorry.
then you're confined to your little your pilot frictions.
I love those. I use them for everything.
Oh, they're not good pens.
Wow.
Ouch.
She would know. She's in a group about pens too, I'm sure.
Here. I have another notebook.
But I do listen to a podcast about pens. So.
I'm sensing another podcast episode about pens and pencils and
Not on this show.
okay.
Stacey be talking to herself. Everybody else be sleeping. No offense. Just saying. For
No,
me, it's just not our thing.
It's
That's
not
the equivalent
for
of
everybody.
when
can
AJ
see
and
how
I
it would
talk
be for
sports.
Thank you. Exactly.
you. Exactly.
Fair enough.
All right. So, how was your first week, Shay?
So it was interesting. Just a little before you joined us on the call, because I was early. We were talking a little bit about the California, the way that some of it's by county. So I'll back up a little bit. Some of the counties, because their COVID numbers are too high, they were told the only option was for distance learning or online learning. The county that I teach in, we were well below the threshold. So we had a few options. We made distance learning available to our district, to the students. Out of roughly 3,800 students, about 800 opted for online only. The remaining 3,000 said they would go with a hybrid model. So we have an AM group and a PM group. But then we also have rotating blocks. So in other words, teaching middle school, I have, tomorrow I'll have periods 4, 5, and 6, but I have periods 4, 5, 6 in the morning, then 4, 5, 6 in the afternoon. Then tomorrow I'll have periods 1, 2, 3 in the morning, 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon.
So it's
So
by
it's
cohort. That's what they're calling
cohort, rotating blocks.
Pods.
I lose track of all the acronyms, to be honest. If it wasn't for my Google Calendar, I'd be lost.
Shay, since you're ahead of the game and you have already gone back to school, obviously going into the school year over your summer break, you must have done some type of preparation and put things in place and tried to get things in motion to hit the ground running, so to speak. What in the first week has gone well? And number two, after 1 week, what didn't you think of where you're like, if I could go back in time a week, here's what I would do differently?
Oh gosh, where do I start? I think I think like a lot of teachers, this summer has been. I think a lot of teachers, all of us, we've worked so hard over the summer, probably harder than we ever have, even though we technically were, off duty or off contract.
That's what the rest of the world thinks about us.
Right. Yeah, it's a vacation, right? But I think to answer your question, Chris, I would say what's worked well is really just trying to connect with the kids emotionally. I mean, they're going through the same thing that we are. They're frazzled. They're dying to get back and have some social interaction. So I think, kind of putting aside the curriculum this first week and just really trying to connect with them has been the biggest piece for not just me, but the other teachers that I work with and all the staff. Really is just trying to make that connection and just tell them, hey, you know what, we're all in this together. Pack a good lunch, tie your shoes, wear your mask, wash your hands, come on back. So I think that's what's worked well, and the kids have been really respectful about it. I think the thing that has not worked well is too many different platforms. We've got some teachers using Google, some teachers using, another LMS or another platform. And it just, I think it's a little too confusing. I think that's where we need to really simplify.
So when you say too many platforms, are you saying that, like, are you teamed for middle school, or are you, remind me what you teach? Because I know when we met, we bonded not only over notebooks, but also over our position as tech coaches. So you were a tech coach and now you're back in the classroom. What content are you responsible for?
So I'm mostly teaching electives. I'm teaching, it's like a rotation wheel, kind of an elective wheel, where I teach digital media, which is basically just introducing them to some different creative things. Like, we use WeVideo. I get them going on WeVideo a little bit, just showing some basic design elements, trying to get them to understand how to leverage some of the Google tools that they have available, like Google Drawings, and how to better use Google Slides. So that's an introductory course. I'm teaching 4 periods of that. And then I have a year-long computer science, introductory to computer science, which is mostly 8th graders. I have a couple 7th graders in there. And then a year-long like video production, video lab, where we actually get into the meat of it, not just a introductory thing.
All right. So what platform are you using?
And that's the funny part, right? So this summer, one of the comments we heard from students and teachers was we were using too many platforms. So they tried to consolidate, and the district did, and they tried to say, well, hey, look, we'll use this thing called Fuel Education, Fuel Education or K-12 online. I think it works well for just distance only, but when you try to integrate it into a hybrid model or any kind of in-class instruction, it's not working. In fact, our superintendent just sent an email just about an hour ago that said, Fuel Education will be used for distance only. The rest of you are using Google because we're a Google school or Google district. So yeah, so mostly Google, which is what I've been asking for all along. Yeah, I think, again, I mean, I think what's gone well. The kids are being great. They get it. They're super happy to be back in class, but at the same time, what's not going great is too many things. Seesaw, gosh, what are some of the others? I can't even Bunchy or whatever it is. So you had all these teachers using different things.
See,
Yeah.
that's going to be a situation because I think teachers are trying to defend themselves a little bit right now, and they're trying to do as much as possible to show we can make distance learning work. We can make technology work in the classroom. And, I'm speaking for New Jersey. I can't speak for what's going on in Cali, but we've been working hard for the last 2 months, figuring out a plan to get students back into the classroom and get teachers back safely into the classrooms. We have not been thinking about a plan to get PD into the teachers' hands. So all of us as a state have totally dropped the ball because we have been so focused of multiple hours of just, is this plan the right plan? Is it going to work? So when you say like there's too many tools being used, of course there's too many tools being used because we're trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing for students to keep them engaged, to keep them growing and learning and exploring the different tools that there are to offer. I think if you can speak to that for a second, Shay, and just talk about like, what do you think is the right balance? If we're going to talk about tools to use with our students, what's the right balance for teachers?
Wow. And I agree totally, AJ. I think, just taking a step back for a minute, because I don't know about New Jersey, but when we in California were told Friday March 13th was the day that they said, take everything you need out of your classroom and good luck. And
I didn't get that kind of a warning. It was like, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks.
Right.
We'll figure it out after that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, and that's kind of, to be fair, that's kind of what we were told was, hey, if you have any class pets or anything that you think you might need, you might want to grab it now. So that was kind of code for, you're probably not coming back for a while. I think when we all rushed into this distance learning piece, obviously there was a lot of confusion and resentment and frustration, but, coming into this, kind of like you were saying, AJ, we've thought long and hard about all these tools. And I guess what I keep going back to is, can we just take a step back for a minute and reconnect with these kids? They're just as frustrated as we are. They're frazzled. They're tired of being at home with their parents and siblings. They just want to get out. My youngest is a high school senior this year. And, I know that's one thing he keeps saying is, I just miss hanging out with my friends. I just want to go back and hang out. But then as far as the tools go, I've noticed he attends a different district. But one of the things that he has said is, why all of a sudden are we using Microsoft Teams? Like, we've never used that before. So why do we have to relearn this now? It's just another layer of frustration, when if we could just simplify it and go back to what we know, whether it's Google or whatever teachers were using previously, just make it simple.
Shay, you got to be careful. We're talking about education here. So
I know. I got lofty goals.
So is your son going back to school virtually, or is he in person?
He's virtual. So, the county I teach in is just, gosh, it's not even, the county line is, I could probably hit a nice 3-wood and reach it. It's just right up the road. My commute is only about 15 minutes.
Nice.
But we live right on that border, which is another thing where we reside. We're in a county that was told distance learning only. Where I teach, different deal. Even though there's a lot of commuters back and forth. So, I'm no scientist, but anyways, yeah, I think it's,
At least you're by county. We don't even have that. Like my sons and where we live, my kids went to 2 different school districts within the, we've never moved, but we have a K-6 elementary and a middle high school district that's regional. So 4 districts send there. And just on Friday, one of the elementary districts decided to be all virtual. Like, so in New Jersey, the plans are still changing. Whereas like my son's middle school and high school, again, where 2 towns now are virtual and 2 towns are hybrid. Actually, one of them is not even hybrid. They're so small. They're like, nope, we're full day, 5 days a week. All the kids are coming. I'm like, meanwhile, they have siblings that are now, and like, it's just like, it's like a crapshoot. And that's within the same regional area where we all send our kids to the same middle school and high school. And so I hear what you're saying. I'm no scientist, but I just see lots of issues.
Well, and in the county that I teach in, which is El Dorado County, extends all the way up to South Lake Tahoe, which I don't know if you're familiar with Lake Tahoe, but it's a huge tourist attraction. I was just reading in the news that their COVID numbers are skyrocketing because of tourism, but who knows? So we'll see. I think we can just.
Your son's starting his senior year virtually.
Correct.
Which comes with its own hurdles, where I feel like there has to be a lot of compassion for those kids who, are starting their milestone year in a way that it's probably outside of their expectations. All of that anticipation that you build up for homecoming and, all those seniors who didn't get to live through prom and end of the year trips and graduation the right way, or not the right way, but, their traditional sense of like what those things are going to be. I think you're right. I think that we need to enter the year being compassionate and building those relationships. Is your situation, I know you said you're in person and you're in school. Are you also teaching virtual students, or if you're an in-person teacher, you're solely responsible for in-person kids?
So, the interesting thing is, if you are one of the teachers that is teaching in the hybrid model, which is, in-person instruction, our PD days, in order to get attendance or get ADA in California, they've required that students be on a video call for 20 minutes at least per, I think, gosh, and I'd have to go back and look at the regulations on this, but when we have our district PD days, the students have to be on a call for 20 minutes, and then we have to assign approximately 40 minutes worth of work for them to do individually.
How do you judge that? And who judges that?
Right. That's a great question. I honestly don't know. And some of the issues that have come up with this, video learning is, I've heard stories, or I don't want to say horror stories, but stories from fellow teachers in other districts in other counties in parts of California where, for example, a student came onto the call, had a hoodie on. Teacher said, "Remove your hoodie." Student said, "Hey, listen, my mom's got the air conditioning full blast. I'm cold." Teacher said, "If you don't remove your hoodie, I'm going to dress code you." It's like, wait, time out. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
But I've heard that about like schools not allowing pajamas. If that were
right.
like
so they don't allow pets because there's no pets in school either.
Right. Yeah.
My only thing is, I just said this in my episode, in episode 162 for House of Ed Tech. Really, if you want to infringe on their home life, just still advise them to not do the following: don't put gum under whatever work surface you're working at, be it your kitchen table or a desk in your bedroom. Don't put gum under the work surface because that's just gross, no matter where you're learning.
Yeah. And don't draw on the desks. And,
You know
come on.
what? If it's your desk, I don't give a crap. Draw on it, whatever.
Right.
Well, then
Yeah,
they can put gum on it, Chris.
Right. Or here's another one that I heard about recently from a fellow teacher in another county. One of her colleagues, high school, this is high school, student had AirPods in, was listening to the discussion. Student got up and left the video chat for a moment to get a drink of water or whatever it was, came back in less than a minute, and the teacher said, if you do that again, I will either mark you absent or tardy. And the kid said, well, I'm still listening. I'm participating. What do you want me to do? I was thirsty. Come on. I mean, so I know it's brought up a lot of new questions. How do you handle that? I don't know.
So then, can I ask you guys a quick question? This is for everybody, right? So like, you've seen all of those protocols or expectations for how people are going to conduct themselves in that virtual world where, we're all in little boxes. And one of them is that your camera has to be on and, there are some dress code issues or whatever. What is your take on that? Because I have some really strong opinions about it, but they're my strong opinions. So I want to hear what you guys are thinking about, like even cameras on, cameras off.
I'll jump in on the camera thing. I think that cameras are necessary. I think students who engage in the virtual part of this, whether it's hybrid or if you're completely remote, I think your students should be asked to have their cameras on.
Tell me why.
I don't think we should go so far as to make it a requirement. Because, and again, this is my opinion. The best way to communicate with somebody is face to face. Okay? And if we're not in our classrooms, the camera and video chat, video conferencing is the next best thing. Now, if a student doesn't want to turn their camera on, then don't be an idiot and like Shay, don't write them up. Don't discipline them using school policy for not turning their camera on. That's asinine. Okay. If a student normally would come to my classroom, I have this open communication where I know that from time to time, kids are having an off day. They don't feel well, whatever. I work with teenagers. They're crazy. So if you come to me and you say, hey, Mr. Nessie, I'm not really feeling today. Okay, I'm not going to bother you then. I'm not going to get on your case for not participating or raising your hand. I'm going to leave you be. I can translate that into the virtual environment where, just let me know why you don't want your camera on. And I'm cool with that. I'll be fine. We'll find other ways for you to be engaged and participate. So, but for me, I'm going to have my camera on. I'd love to have my kids have their camera on so I can get the next best thing to not being in the same classroom with them or seeing them in the hallway or interacting with them. Being able to see them, see their facial expressions, know when my jokes land or most often don't land. I can see that they're not laughing.
Yep.
So having the camera on is valuable.
Yeah, again, you need that.
Just don't be a fool and come up with ridiculous policies and mandates and you must do, that's just stupid. So.
All right. So let me ask you a follow-up, right? Do you see that after, because the expectation here is that we're all going back to school in October because COVID will be over by then, magical numbers and stuff. But do you see yourself becoming more lenient or lax in that expectation or that thinking? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like if after October, after that foundational introductory, like coming together as a community where we do all want to see each other, do you see yourself saying like becoming less strict about that rule? Not that it's a hard and fast rule, but you know what I'm saying.
Honestly, no. I'm again, and in my school, we're going to be virtual through the first half of the year, so through January.
Oh, you guys are through January?
First and second marking periods.
Oh, I knew New Brunswick changed, but I didn't.
Yeah,
wow.
So I'm going to have the same approach and desire to have them use their cameras. As long as we're virtual, I'm going to encourage them in my way to use the camera. And again, if that comes and goes based on the kid, whether or not they want to turn it on or, engage to that level, that's fine. You know, there are going to be other more valuable ways that I can measure engagement. And are they participating in, you know, whether it's exit tickets and some other things that, you know, we're all going to be trying to do. So
Right.
to answer your question, I think cameras are good. Just don't be an idiot and require it to a extreme sense of requirement. And, you know, just kind of go with it.
What about you, AJ?
I think cameras are necessary. You know, I'm taking this from a middle school perspective here. Okay. We've had students, we've heard students, I've seen, you know, my wife teaching, kids would log in, turn off their camera, and then not respond. So, you know, these kids are up to something, whether they're going back to sleep because it's an early morning and it's a half day. So, and I'm sure, Shay, you're kind of dealing with that too. But I think cameras are necessary. I think the only reason a camera should not be on is if a parent has requested that, you know, they don't want to see the inside of their house or anything like that. You know, if the paper is signed that says no camera access, that's a different story. But I think the cameras are extremely necessary, you know, because teaching and learning, so, you know, kids are there, you know, they might not be engaged, but at least they'll be compliant, you know, and I think that's something we have to understand. We need to have the kids in a virtual setting have their cameras on just so we know that they're there. We can see that they are paying attention or seeing the screen or, you know, somewhere along those lines. But I think they're important just so we know that the kid is not sleeping, playing video games while the lesson's going on, you know, just as a respect to the teacher. You know, the teacher's putting a lot of work into doing this. Teachers giving up their time. Don't be a knucklehead.
Do you think, I was just going to ask really quick, AJ and Chris, do you think maybe, you know, it requires a little bit of a mindset shift where we almost need to teach that etiquette to them? Because, you know, I think when we got rushed into this distance learning, everybody was trying to figure it out. And I think that's one thing that I've found is, you know, trying to explain to them, you know, yes, I do want to see your face. I don't care if you're wrapped up in a blanket or a hoodie or whatever, but I just want to see your face for a minute and have a conversation. And if you're afraid to talk on camera, you know, punch something into the chat, right? I mean, you know, I don't know. I was just kind of curious what your thoughts were.
No, I think you're absolutely correct. And I think that's part of, you know, what we do now for classroom expectations and rules and procedures, right? Just like we would do in an actual classroom when we say we want this much communication, we want this participation. Now that you're in a virtual setting, okay, so in the classroom we're going to do this, but when we're meeting virtually through our hybrid model, we make sure we stick to this. You know, even if it's for half a class period, for what we're doing around here, we're looking at 30 to 40 minutes per class period for a half a day, you know, in a middle school setting. So give me 20 minutes where I'm going to talk to you 15, 20 minutes. And then the other 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever the case may be, you can go, you know, work asynchronously. What's the word?
Asynchronously.
Yeah.
It's the word I try to avoid.
One of those words that's in the running to be word of the year by Merriam-Webster, of course.
Yes. Wait, can I get in there with my opinion?
No, hold on one second. I just want to. Sorry, I was going to piggyback one thing. You know, obviously, face to face. Number one. Number two, camera. Number three, figures the podcast. You know, we would say this: audio. Mute your camera. Use your voice. So that's my last point on that. Go ahead, Stacey. What do you think?
All right. So I'm not so hung up on the camera. I think because personally, I don't like to be on camera. Right? Like this is an anomaly that like we've done this entire podcast this entire summer on camera. I like to not look my best. And like there would be some days when personally I would go for a run and not have enough time to shower before school started. And I looked like literally a hot mess. Like, so like for me, I have some empathy for those kids who don't want to be on camera. Those kids who literally woke up, still have their rooster hair. Now, mind you, half those kids would still come to school with their rooster hair too, where it's just sticking up all angles and being cute and fifth grade-ish. But I can honor and respect the idea that they would not always want to be on camera. It's going to be really hard for me not to meet my kids in person. So I could see starting the year and kind of requesting that we be on camera as much as possible until I can match a face with a voice, until that becomes much more familiar. I mean, we were at an advantage on March 13th, when we started on the 16th and we were all virtual. I knew everyone's voices, right? Like we had built that rapport. So I think early on, I'm going to ask them to keep their cameras on, but I don't know that I would necessarily keep that as a like a hard and fast rule, just because personally, I know, like I've attended two PD sessions so far this summer, and I have a week full of PD coming up. I've not been on camera once because one of those PDs started at 8:30 in the morning. And I said, and I apologize, like, look, I still have bedhead and I'm pouring coffee right now. Like, so I would have gotten in trouble. Like, but again, I've got my computer on and we're just having a conversation. I can be moving around my house the same way I'd be moving around my classroom, talking to my kids, drinking from my water bottle or drinking from a coffee cup. So I think it gets
bottle.
No, not at 8:30 in the morning, AJ.
Well,
Pump
virtual
the brakes.
learning.
What? No. But do you see, I don't know, like for me, I always looked at like those Bitmoji like checklists of like, here's what we're going to do when we're in this Zoom call or we're in Google Meet. And I was just like, that to me is a little cringy when like I knew I had kids that were camera shy and who were also often voice shy. So for me, it was just knowing my kids. I won't know them the same way. So that's going to be really tricky. So I can see starting the year, camera ready, or camera on, maybe not camera ready. I'm not going to be camera ready every day.
Lights
and
camera action.
I mean, look how dark it is in my room now. Like, it's just, yeah, I like dark mode. I do like dark mode. Anyway, that's why I'm asking, because like I cringed every time I saw those expectations for kids that I knew would feel very like who had trouble doing Flipgrid, and now the expectation is the camera's going to be on them all the time. And everyone was going to see them, whether they spoke or not, because the kids figured out grid view and Hangouts or Meet and, whatever.
Yeah. Shay, any other thoughts on the start of the school year?
Oh gosh. I just think, my approach has been, and I think I share this approach with a few other fellow teachers, is just, building that connection, as hard as it may be. My district is a little lucky in that at least I get to see the kids every other day. But at the same time, whether it's distance learning or hybrid or whatever it looks like, just building those connections with them, and kind of like Stacey was saying, if you get to know them a little bit, you can kind of draw them out, right? Once you do get onto the camera or audio or whatever it may be. And I think, just trying to simplify. So social emotional learning, and then just simplify, have one point of contact, whether it's Google Classroom or Flipgrid or whatever it is, where they know that they feel safe, and they'll get there. Yeah. That's my take.
It's a fun take to have. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
That.
And
Sure that, no, I like the advice, because I feel like districts are quickly buying all subscriptions to all digital tools. And I think that like we're just kind of like throwing our resources, meaning money, at other resources that are either going to go underutilized, utilized improperly, or with expectations that are just going to like make the teacher and the students feel like failures. And that's, as a tech coach, like that's never what you want. When you're introducing a digital tool, you want it to have meaning and purpose and enhance the work, not distract from the lesson.
Yeah. All right. I'll give you a little golf clap on that one.
Thanks, I appreciate it. My round of applause.
Yeah. And if you have not seen some of the work that John Carippo is doing, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but such a nice guy. And he's actually gone back into the classroom. He is no longer the executive director of learning for CUE, which is Computer Using Educators. He co-wrote actually 2 books now with Marlena Hebern, Edu Protocols. And there's some free templates out there, eduprotocols.com. But John Carippo's work, in fact, I've used a lot of his stuff. because it's collaborative, it's fun, it's quick, it's easy. If you know your way around Google, it's super simple to implement. So I'll give a plug for John Carippo on some of his stuff, because that's really how I've got some of the kids going this year.
Nice.
Awesome.
We'll include that in the show notes for this episode out at podcastpd.com/82. 82. 82.
82. Wow.
I know.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much, guys. I'm going to have to jump off here pretty soon, but thank you, Stacey, for the invite, and Chris and
Thanks
AJ.
for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
That was great talking
It's been
to
a
you. I really
blast.
appreciate it. Make sure you come
Shay,
back.
before you
Yes,
hop
come
off,
back.
how can people connect with you? Twitter, Instagram, mailing address? How can people connect?
Let's see.
Shay has
Pony
really
Express.
cool handwriting, so if he writes you a note, like I've kept all of them.
Hey, and fun fact, our district is called Rescue Union School District. And there are actually 2 stops along the old Pony Express out here in the West.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, you can, I don't know that the Pony Express still runs, but
It feels like
Well,
it.
hopefully the
we're gonna need
post
something
office doesn't
soon.
join the Pony Express.
Better than a stamp. Probably the best way to reach me is on probably Twitter. I'd say Twitter. I'm probably on Twitter more than anything else. Tosa Notes, TOSANOTES. So Tosa Notes, and feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to share. I'm no sage, but I'll be happy to share what I know.
No, we appreciate all that you shared tonight. Truly. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was fun. I'd love to come back and chat some more with you guys.
Absolutely.
Make it happen. Absolutely.
All right.
You know where to find us.
Yep.
Have a good night, Shay.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a good night.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Take care, Shay. Thanks
Bye.
for calling in. All right.
That was awesome. I've never spoken to him before. Like
there you go.
we've like text and everything on Twitter, and like I said, he sent me mail. I have his handwriting, but like never really heard his voice. That was super cool.
Well,
glad he
this will be a great time. One, because that was a lot of fun, and since he's a first-time caller, I'm going
Long-time
to
listener.
award him our giveaway of the episode, because we got new stickers and stuff. So let me just make me big.
I bet you he puts
so-
it on a field note.
That's what I'm hoping. So Stacey, get his address, and we're going to send Shay a couple of our brand new stickers.
I have it, I
courtesy
think.
of
I've sent him stuff
Sticker
too.
Mule. Nice.
Yeah.
Before we get to our next caller, we'd also like to say that if you are interested and you find value in what we do here for Podcast PD, consider becoming an executive producer of the podcast. Our executive producer initiative allows you to support the podcast on a monthly or a yearly basis. You do what's comfortable for you. But if you go to podcastpd.com/executive producers, you can find out all the information. Everybody who becomes an executive producer gets some Podcast PD stickers. And if you become a yearly supporter, we will send you stickers, we will send you a t-shirt, and we will send you a Podcast PD mug. And we are very thankful, and we want to spotlight Mike Brilla, who is one of our executive producers, and we thank Mike for his support. Awesome stuff.
Brilliant.
That's a weird transition.
Mm-hmm.
But we go with it here. That's the beauty of live. And speaking of live, this guy was on the show before we started doing this live all the time, and before the world went crazy and our podcast cover art was yellow. But let's bring on former guest of the podcast from episode 72, where we talked about grades, equity, and expanding reach. Let's bring on the David Frangiosa.
How's it going? Nothing much. How you guys doing?
What's up? How you doing, man?
Doing well. A lot more hair than last time you saw me.
Yeah.
A lot
Looks
less
good.
hair than the last time you saw me.
Yeah.
There we go.
Me too. I got a haircut, guys.
Nice.
Which one?
Can't tell. All of them. All of them.
Okay, good.
Let's say if you turn the lights on, we might see what's going on.
The
over
lights
there.
are on. This is stop.
What?
I do need to get one of those lights that Bruce was talking about. Anyway, Dave, it's all you.
Yes, I just wanted to piggyback on that camera conversation. So, like AJ was talking about, different levels, there's different, I guess, expectations. So I'm at the high school level. I teach juniors. So one of the things that I kind of did that helped all those students that were camera shy and Granted, we had 7 months and we had a relationship, and so I kind of knew who those students were. I did small groups. So I took my time and I broke the class into thirds. So it wasn't the full class all the time. And last year we also had in Canvas, that's our LMS. We had Big Blue Button where I was the only one who could see the students unless I put them in a breakout room. So that was great. This year, to simplify, like Shay was talking about, and that's one of the things that I think is really important as well, to simplify, everybody's using Google Meet this year. So, yeah.
I'm laughing because we all used Google Meet last year, like those of us who are in the Google ecosystem, and we are all getting Zoom accounts.
Yeah, I was a fan of Big Blue Button. I like the fact that I was the only one who could see the students. They could talk to each other, they could hear each other, but like I said, unless they were in a breakout room, they couldn't see each other, which kind of made them feel a little more comfortable and eliminated some of that distraction of them. Not that I lectured, via web conference, because I think that's kind of a waste of time. I did more tutorials on like a virtual whiteboard, and it was more geared towards individual questions. So that small group instruction worked a whole lot better. But this year we're using Google Meet. So they say they're adding features to it. We'll see how that works when we get our hands on it, because right now I can't use any of those features. But, I think one of the things that leads teachers to having all these demands in the virtual learning is a lot of those teachers have the demands when they're face-to-face too. They're more concerned with the compliance than they are with the learning and being in charge and not giving up that power to the students and trusting the students. So if you build that culture of learning to where, I'm here to support you, what you need as a learner, I'm going to provide to you. Once you build that culture, they're gonna respect it. They like that freedom. They like to learn, but and it's not even their choice of what they're learning. It's just they understand that you're in it together. It's not you versus them. So that's going to be the hardest thing, that we don't have those 7 months to build that culture, because for me the last 3 months it went pretty well. My students were still learning.
Same.
Obviously a much slower pace than we had, and we adjusted for that, but I really didn't have many complaints with the virtual learning. I thought it went really well. We didn't do all of the additional tools. We didn't buy stuff just to use in virtual learning. I'm fortunate I work in a district that had a lot of that stuff prior to going virtual. So nothing I used in the virtual space was new to the students. And that was huge. Going back to that simplicity, if you're trying to teach them a new technology, well, then you're going to have to sacrifice content. So that's just my thoughts on the videos. So I really don't care if they turn them on or not. So we're doing a hybrid. So I'm going to see them. I'll see my students face-to-face 3 times every 2 weeks. So yeah, each class will meet 3 times every 2 weeks. And then we'll meet virtually. So with a virtual meeting in the afternoon. So we're doing A/B cohorts. So let's just say Monday is 1, 2, 3, 4A. In the afternoon will be periods 5, 6 virtual. And then Tuesday will be 1, 2, 3, 4B, 7, 8. And then the next day would be 5, 6, 7, 8A, periods 1, 2 in the afternoon. So the afternoon is all virtual, everybody. And then the morning is face-to-face in A/B cohorts. So it's going to be interesting, like how
my head hurts just thinking about that.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
I was trying to do the math on how you only see your kids 3 times in 2 weeks, but now that you say that,
yeah.
wow. And do you have the option to be all virtual?
Yeah. So right now we have 8% of our district. So it's a small 8. Yeah, it's a small percentage. Yeah.
It's all high school. It's all high school.
All high school. Yeah. We're a regional high school district.
So you're like where my kids go. So like how does that affect the like those parents who have, who straddle both districts? Like, right, you have your elementary district and you have your middle high school district or high school. Are you only high school or are you middle high?
No, we're only high school. We're 9 through 12.
Okay.
So I can't answer that question. I really have no clue. Yeah. So actually AJ's kids are in the district. So I don't know what are your kids' schedules?
Please don't even start.
But wait, Jamie's also in the district.
Yeah, she's in the district. So yes, we would be in the sending district to that regional high school. Dave's on the other end of it. But the schedules are crazy because Jamie's got the AB, rotating AB schedule, however that works out. I know for us, for the boys, like kindergarten is going to be 5 days a week. Second grade is going to be every other day, rotating AB. So it's going to be fun. It's all fun. It's all fun. But so if I had older kids not in the middle school, it wouldn't make a difference. But, for the little guys, it's very difficult.
And then AJ, do you have the option to send your kids all virtual?
Do we have the option? Do we have the opportunity is the question.
Fair.
I'm all virtual. My kids will be virtual, and my wife has to go to school.
Right. And I don't know what my assignment is yet. I assume that I'm virtual, but we're also told that if we're teaching virtually, we're also teaching as of right now in the classroom. So like
You have to go to your school.
I have to go to my school, but my kids are older. So like I'm in that I have that luxury of not having to worry about what they're going to do all day. They're hopefully going to do work.
Chris, you don't have to go in?
I haven't been told
okay.
that I have to go in. So until I'm told, we're just kind of amongst me and my friends. We're like, all right, we're going to do what we did in the spring. And that's kind of what the superintendent's correspondence alluded to, is that we're going to be doing what worked successfully in the spring, and everybody was home. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. But if that changes, I'll be sure to talk about it here.
Yeah, we have the option. So we can teach from the classroom virtually, or we can, at that lunch break, go home and then teach the afternoon from home.
We have that as well.
Yeah, my wife has to go in. So she's there from, 9 to 3, even though they're fully virtual.
Wow.
Yep.
If I could shift gears real quick, David, when you were on the podcast previously, again, episode 72, that was way back at the end of April of this year, 2020. And again, the heart of that episode was about standards-based grading in your classroom. So I am curious, what and how does all of this impact what you do with standards-based grading and building that rapport? Can you share any thoughts on that before the school year even starts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it makes my job a whole lot easier. Because I don't feel the pressure to force in content. We focus on skills and we teach skills through content. And it's more of an organic conversation where we're expecting our students to come into our classrooms as beginners in these skills, and then we're coaching them through a learning progression. So, it's more, the approach is more geared towards building relationships. So everything that we do is based on feedback. So I'm having these small group conversations. I'm talking to them one-on-one about, where their strengths lie, where their areas of opportunity are. So, it's just the nature of my teaching builds that relationship.
So, but what does that look like here on September 1st or 2nd or 4th? Will you have students that that are new to your building, or do you work with kids that you could have seen or known previously?
I will not know any of the students that I had. So this year they'll all be new to me. But that really isn't going to change my approach. It's going to take me a little bit longer to actually get those protocols in place, get the procedures. So, patience is going to be key. So I think, and that's in any aspect of teaching, doesn't matter whether you're traditional, whether you're standards based, we're going to have to be really flexible this year. We're going to have patience with kids, patience with ourselves. Because Stacey, like you, like looking at that schedule, I was like, all right, so now on the A day, I have to figure out what I'm doing with my B kids. So, and like, how am I going to connect with them? How am I going to give them something that's, engaging?
Meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. So look, it's not going to be perfect, and we're going to do the best that we can, but my approach is way more forgiving for both myself and students.
But it has been for a while, right? Like,
yeah. So we've been doing this. I'm going into my 6th year of standards-based grading. So we've kind of worked out a lot of those kinks, and it's a more streamlined process now. So how we provide feedback, the types of assessments that we're doing, we've kind of kept in mind the challenges that are ahead of us for this year. So we modified the way we're doing a few things, but we just noticed at the end of last year, that's probably best practice anyway. So, and that gets back to my previous point. I think a lot of the changes that need to be made to make virtual learning work should be happening in face-to-face learning as well. So, and I think it would take the pressure off of everybody and just make a more authentic, a more organic conversation, rather than when somebody asks you, why do I need to know this? If you're trying to make up some answer and force it on them and, or because I said so, I've heard, I think it was on your podcast, who was talking about that. It might've been Ken Shelton. When you're saying that because I told you so, you really don't care about their opinion, and they see that, okay, they're saying they want to build a relationship with me, but when I challenge them, you want me to question you, but when I'm saying, why do I need to know this? And you're saying, because I said so, you really don't value me or my opinion. And then they shut down. So here it's just like, all right, yeah, you're not going to be a physicist. Great. I don't care. But you need to know how to think. You're going to need to know how to problem solve. It doesn't matter what job you're in. Nobody wants somebody that they have to tell them what to do every step of the way. They want somebody who's going to see a task and say, all right, this is how I'm going to approach it. So, I think from that perspective, my expectations will change throughout the year depending on how quickly I can get these protocols in place. But my approach really won't.
Right. So there are two things that I want to jump in on, like that you said. Like, so you talked about compliance, and like we talked about like it goes back to, and AJ said it earlier, you like use that word specifically. Like I think part of the reason I'm okay with the non-camera issue is because I don't have those compliant issues in my own classroom. Like, so I don't see that day to day where like kids walk in with their hoodies on or wearing hats, because I teach 5th grade, right? They're not middle schoolers yet. They're not trying to be cool or be impressive. They're not coming in chewing gum. And if they are, I ask them to spit it out. Some of them tell me it's a gummy vitamin. Okay, fine. But if you're eating your gummy at 12:30 in the afternoon, I question that. But like those compliance issues, I don't necessarily have a problem with. But I want to piggyback too on your standards, where you talked about like just you'll have an easier time because the expectations in your classroom are different. And our friend Eric Geis sent me a text. He wanted to be here tonight. He wasn't sure if he'd be able to make it, and I'm not sure if he's watching now. But like one of the things he texted me was that I just want to make sure I have it. He said he wonders if we're missing the boat to get away from our traditional grading system, which we've already talked about, and to move towards a standards-based grading system, which you talked about, but also competency-based grading systems. And also if we shouldn't be thinking more creatively in our classroom to talk about opportunities to change the way we test, to do more project and performance-based learning, and really like think about that. I'm not reading all of this word for word, but just kind of getting away from what we're normally doing. But what does that look like for someone who
Sure.
right now is being peppered with all the tools and is not even thinking like about the work, right? Because the work for them is learn the tool so I can introduce the tool so my kids can use the tool. But like, how do we like think about work differently? How do we think about assessment differently, especially when the way we're teaching right now is so incredibly different?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing that I will say is, although I agree, I think people should be shifting to a model like this. Doing it now will be counterproductive. There's not enough time to do it well. There's not enough time to create the materials that you would to redo your assessments in a way that would support it. So what our assessments look like, our entire year is summative. I'm sorry, formative. Our entire year is formative. And then it's just, we have a summative project at the end of the year. And like I said, it's all skill based. So how are they using the tools that we've done the entire year? So we don't really see cheating. So our homework doesn't count for a grade. Each test and quiz, all they get is feedback. So when you set up that model where I'm going to challenge you, we use low floor, high ceiling. Any student can engage with the question, but the more proficient students can really expand upon that, and they can show you what they know. And in any conversation, the first response is, okay, great, here's what you did well. Now, in order to make it better for the next time we assess this same skill, try adding this. And so every conversation is positive and building. We're constructing their schema. So if you go back to when I was talking about cognitive load, and schema is just, those are all of those, the knowledge and understanding that we have. And so once you build those, the only difference between a novice and an expert is the expert has more schema. And once you have schema, it's easier to expand it. So what we're doing is saying, okay, great, here's where you're at. And we're not moving on from that until they're solidly, if you look at it like a ladder, until their foot's on that rung, we're not going to the next rung of the ladder. So we're coaching them until they're consistently at that level, whether it be beginning, developing, proficient, advanced, or expert. So we only coach them one level up. It's okay, great. And then we give them something manageable. Here are the 2 or 3 things that you can do to get to that next developmental level. All right, so everything's a progression. So now if we have to cut our curriculum short because we don't have that contact time, so if in a given year with full contact time, we get to an advanced level, maybe with the contact time that we have, now we can only get to the proficient level. So we can gauge that based on the activities that we do. So our assessments, our quizzes, it's like a normal quiz. We call them checkpoints. We don't even call them quizzes anymore just because of the mentality of that word. And we don't collect them. So they take the quiz, and then I go over the entire quiz right after they take it and give them immediate feedback. So, and they're learning to self-assess because we have rubrics that say exactly what they should be doing at that level. And the other thing that we do to not overwhelm them is, if we're only targeting the developing level, we block out everything proficient and higher. So they can't see what comes next. They have to focus on developing. So they can't say, I want to do the expert stuff, even though they don't have the developing stuff down. So it really helps them self-assess, and they know these are the things that I need. For the tests, those are full period, and we have test skills. So we've realized that we can assess more with less. So if we're assessing 4 skills, we have 4 questions, 1 for each. And in the beginning of the year, if they need to collaborate, I don't really care if they collaborate, because they're still developing these skills, seeing answers, and and then we have that conversation. Okay, why did you need to collaborate? I don't call it cheating, it's collaborating, so especially in science, you're never going to be in a lab setting where you're going to have to memorize all the constants, where you're going to have to memorize the equations. So if you need a little bit of help just to get you over the hump so that you can show me the other things that I have no problem with it. We just have a conversation about it. And so that kind of relieves a lot of pressure on the students. And then they're engaging with the test and the quiz more than they would have in the points-based system, because they really want that feedback. So it seems counterintuitive. It counts for nothing, so they do less work, but the opposite's actually happening. So it only counts for feedback, but I have students that ask for extra time. I have students that I actually have to say, all right, you know what, you've tried for an hour now. Let's just talk about what you did and where we can help you and what are your areas of opportunity, and just the whole mindset, the whole framework. We're coming from a strengths perspective instead of that deficit model. And we've changed a lot of our language. We never say a kid is struggling, they're striving. So, it's just a totally different perspective, a totally different conversation. Now, things that we can do, and I know that people who are sitting here thinking that, okay, that sounds good, but I'm in a points-based system. Great. Well, what you can do is just flip what those points mean. So usually our hardest questions are worth the most points. And then we have to kind of fudge at the end. So, your hardest question should be worth the least amount of points and just be distinguishing between your top flight students. So your knowledge and understanding questions, those should get you to a passing grade. And then your application, your analysis, that should be the distinction between, is this student proficient, advanced, or expert if they can do those things on a test. But we actually flip it, and those knowledge and understanding questions are worth so few points. And then, when you get to those application questions, you don't know if the student can't do it because they don't know, or if they can't do it because they don't have the skill. So if you're not separating those two things out, you can't provide them directed feedback that'll help them progress. So, we've set up our assessment so we know exactly where they're having their challenge and where we can direct our feedback so that they can progress. So when we talk about individualized instruction, we're not creating a whole new curriculum for this one student. We're having a very different conversation with that student. That's where the individualized instruction comes in. It's not in what they're doing, it's in the support of what they're doing. And for your IEP students, this is great for them because now they're not being singled out. Well, I get different work, I get accommodations. My conversation is just like anybody else's, but nobody hears the content of that conversation. So, you're not identifying this student as somebody who needs help, right? So, and that mindset for those students who've, traditionally been labeled, it's huge for them.
I love that. And as I think about how I'm entering into an inclusion partnership for the fall, these are definitely things I'm going to be thinking about. AJ, you were going to say something. I cut you off. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, I think this is a perfect time for this mindset, right? This change in looking at how students can perform. I think because, we don't know what students are doing at home. We don't know the strengths that they may have and how they're possessing, their skills. I think this might be something that we can kind of focus on and help people go forward to figure out how to best help students. Stop worrying about assessments and just worry about getting students to a next level. Dave, you talked about the fact that, it's not about the curriculum. You don't have to touch on every single thing. You can get kids moving in the right direction so they can become curious learners and they can kind of grow on their own and explore on their own. And I think right now at this time, that is what we need to do for our students. So,
as you say that, AJ, I was thinking, raise your hand if you've ever run up a flight of stairs. Do you touch every step? Sometimes no, but you'll still get to the top of the staircase and you can skip some steps. Just don't skip too many or you're going to fall on your face. So I think that it made sense in my mind as I was thinking of it.
I like it. It's a good one. I don't have steps in my house, so
Chris is just talking about CrossFit right now. That's all. He just wanted to bring in the
he's so
idea.
impressive.
I think Chris
Not
does
at CrossFit.
Chris does CrossFit, in case anybody didn't know.
It's box
In case
jump.
you didn't know. Yeah.
I saw a really side note. I'll tell you the joke later about CrossFit, Chris, unless you want it now.
Tell me the joke later. So David, I was looking back through the show notes, and you have a handy dandy little guide to grade reform,
Yep.
which I will throw that up on the screen. People can access that at bit.ly/guide to grade reform, and that's guide with a capital G. So go and get that and dive even deeper into David's thoughts. And if you haven't listened to episode 72 of Podcast PD, go back in your podcatcher or go to podcastpd.com/72 and get a whole episode full of David.
And coming soon, I don't have the release date yet, but Corwin will be publishing a book of our work.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
Fantastic.
so it will be the philosophy behind this. It will be our entire model, as well as 5 years of classroom data. And we're going to have student work examples. We'll have rubrics for other content areas, so it's not just science. So we're going to show how this applies in history, English, art, math. So
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
So
We'll have to have you back on.
sure, I'd be happy to. Our final draft is due October 7th, so hopefully something by the end of the year. But when I know a date, I'll let you know.
That's great.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Congrats, man.
Make sure you connect with David on Twitter. He is at David Frangiosa. He's a pro, so he put it right up on the screen. If you're watching, you can look at that and type it into the Twitters. Otherwise, you can get it from our show notes because it will be there once again. David, thank you for your insight and a little bit more about grade reform. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for
Dave.
joining us.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. As we get ready to wrap up this episode of Podcast PD, we're
Wait,
going
we're
to have
wrapping up. I have a quick question.
What's your question, Stacey?
All right. So you know how we're talking about all expectations and stuff, and Jill mentioned something about how
I have her comment right here.
no, that was a good one. I think that was a
Good
high
mention.
five for
Good mention.
I think it
For
was a
the
high
book.
five for the book, yeah. But I think it was Jill or maybe it was Stephanie Scrocky talking. Oh, there it is. My students' internet seemed to struggle with video lag time when all video feeds were on. So that got me thinking about the hot trend in creating a Bitmoji classroom. And one of the things I saw from Wanda Terrell today was how those types of slide decks really do eat up a lot of the RAM on a kid's low performing Chromebook, which many of them have, and eats up a lot of bandwidth in the household. So, as we move forward, just a warning to all educators who have beautiful Bitmoji classrooms, just be considerate of kids who are really going to have some computer lag, some major slowdowns, and think about whether or not that cute little slide is worth a lot of frustration. I don't know how you guys feel about your Bitmoji classrooms. I saw your face, Chris, so I think I can tell. But I have not even created one. I think
For those
they're
who can't
fantastic.
see my face because you're listening on the podcast side, here's what my face said. Burn your Bitmoji classrooms to the ground.
Oh my God, I have a burning Bitmoji classroom.
Yo.
If you
I
have
will send it
time,
to you.
okay, I can relate this to podcasting and content creation. You can make it look as pretty as you want. The best cover art, the best Bitmoji classroom. Spend the time
Getting to know your
developing,
kids.
getting to know your kids, and planning lessons and instruction. If you're a Google school, just post the stuff in Google Classroom. It doesn't need to look pretty and be virtual. Because let's face it, most of us lie when we design our Bitmojis anyway, so you're not fooling anybody. That being said, burn your Bitmoji classrooms to the ground and spend your time connecting with your kids, designing meaningful, engaging instruction, whether you're hybrid or virtual, whatever the case may be, and better spend your time and your resources, because your kids don't care if you have a Bitmoji classroom. Let's be honest.
Well, there goes mine now. Thanks so much.
Were you going to have a
Did you really
Bitmoji
have one?
office, Mr. Administrator?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just for those people out there who now feel attacked, don't feel attacked.
I
Go with
didn't
the
try to
Chris.
attack.
Go
I
with
didn't
the
say
Chris.
I didn't attack them. I just said be
You do you.
thoughtful about what is happening on the kids' end, right? I think, yeah. Just
Right,
be
I'm
thoughtful
gonna be
about
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I have no idea what you're talking about. I just know there's Bitmoji picture and then there's like links. It's like a hyper doc, isn't it? Is it all it is, or am I just totally off?
Yeah,
base?
but
it. It is,
Stacey
but I
makes a
think
great
it's on
point.
track.
On the technical end of it, yeah, these multi-slide Google slide shows, they're going to eat the resources. So technically speaking, they're not a good idea.
They're full of like high res pictures, and you know what it's like to load a Google slideshow that has a lot of slides,
Yes.
let alone
Yes.
something that has
Especially
like
on a Chromebook.
20
Especially on a
images.
Right.
Yeah,
Ugh, that's killing me.
exactly. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. Anyway,
All right. No, that's a great point, and thank you for sharing that.
yeah. Well, I thank Jill for the reminder,
Yes, thank you, Jill. We love Jill.
and Wanda Trail for her original thought.
Yes, which I think I liked in Facebook. I did
Yeah.
like it. All right. So Stacey is going to be giving her podcast recommendation, because if you missed it, we're only giving out one recommendation per episode to save time and not encourage Stacey podcast syndrome, which is a technical term now. I just
Oh,
coined
it is
Yeah, where you don't have 20,000 unlistened to podcasts on your device. So we're not gonna
2,114.
Sure. What?
That's
Yeah.
more. That's more.
That's more.
You were at like 1,800 at one point.
I know, but like, I didn't realize that. Like, well, I'll explain in a minute. Anyway,
She will. So before Stacey gives her recommendation, we do want to preview our next two episodes, episode 83 and episode 84. Coming up on September 6th, join us live as we talk Scripted, an educator's guide to media in the classroom, with authors Paula Needlinger, Bruce Reicher, and Randall Tomes. We'll get it right before then.
we'll let them tell us.
We'll let them tell us. And coming up on September 20th, we are going to be speaking with the author of Teaching in Magenta, James Sturdivant. So that'll be fun.
Woohoo.
Coming up, episodes 83 and 84. You're not going to want to miss it. If you have questions or comments regarding either of those books or topics, or for those people, go to podcastpd.com/feedback and send us your thoughts. That's what powers this thing. It's like Laughter and Monsters, Inc. We are powered by your feedback and opinions.
Yes.
Stacey, what are you listening to? What are you learning from? Please share.
So I went to the beach yesterday, and by myself. It was like a solo trip. I felt like such an adult, since my kids are older and they were on the boat with my husband. Anyway, I drove down to the Jersey Shore and I binged the entire 5 episodes of Nice White Parents, which, for those of you who have not heard of it, and Chris, you're shaking your head like you know, and I'm sure you do, because it is a Serial broadcast. So Serial created its own production company and is now working with the New York Times, and they created this 5-part podcast that it was amazing. But anyway, this is what the blurb says. If you want to understand what's wrong with our public schools, you have to look at what is arguably the most powerful force in shaping them: white parents. A 5-part series from Serial Productions, a New York Times company, hosted by Chana Joff-Walt. It was just incredibly eye-opening. And basically what they do
Stacey, what's the name? Who hosted it? Who is that?
Is it Chana? I don't know. I'm reading it and
Anna Joffrey Walt.
thanks. Well, you can fix that and cut that out and make it sound pretty when
Now we're rolling.
Oh, please do. Sorry, I'm like awful. So Jill saying it was awesome. I binged. I started to fall asleep on the beach and I turned it off, and because I didn't want to miss a single part of it. But basically it follows the 60-year history of one of the public schools in Brooklyn, and just talks about how the school was built as a fringe school, meaning it was on the border of the student population it was supposed to be built for, which was basically Black and Hispanic students. And they built it 3 blocks further from where they originally intended, on the urging of white parents who had good intentions to integrate schools. And it talks about the integration process, and it talks about the lack of integration in New York City public schools. And it is really eye-opening. And as you know, we enter back into the school system and all of the reflection that so many of us have done over the summer with the Black Lives Matter movement. And when we talked to Ken Shelton about how to be anti-racist and anti-bias, like, this is a really eye-opening podcast that will help you do some of that work, and will lead you into other areas where you can check your own biases and just think about what role you play in education. From an educator, from the role of an educator, role of a parent, and so forth. It was honestly, it was one of the best podcasts I've listened to in a really long time, and only 5 episodes.
Which is 5 less that you have to listen to now.
Actually 10, because it was delivered twice, because they dropped it in the serial feed, and then they dropped it in the nice white parents feed, but I was following both.
That's some sneaky behind the scenes, how the sausage is made podcasty stuff.
But can I tell you that if they had not dropped it in the serial feed, I wouldn't have seen it for a while, because Serial is in my list of podcasts that I check every day, and Nice White Parents was not.
Why would you check the serial feed?
Because I never took it out.
Day?
It's like having a season, like a season pass or a series recording on your DVR, and you're like, oh, that show's still on when it records again.
Oh, okay.
You know.
All right.
So
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. There'll be a link to that in the show notes out at podcastpd.com/82. And we'll tag those folks on our Instagram story when this episode publishes. So that will be fun. Anything else?
That's it, really.
All right. AJ, what's going on with Reflect Ed?
New episode this week.
Nice.
Promise. Number 4 this week. And then closely number 5 at the start of September.
Awesome.
I
Thanks.
like it. Yay.
ReflectedPodcast.com. Go check it out. If you're not subscribed, you're missing out.
Yeah.
On the latest episode of the House of Ed Tech, I gave 8 tips for online teaching. So you can go to chrisnessy.com/162 if you want.
Give us a little tease. What's one of them? Like your favorite or your least favorite, or like the middle one?
I made the point about cameras on versus cameras off. So you could skip over that because I made my point here on this episode.
Something new, Chris.
Something new. Don't be critical if the cameras are on. Don't be an idiot. That's a big theme. Don't be an idiot and be critical of like what's in the space that the students are in, because
No.
I read stuff. People might do that. So don't make kids feel uncomfortable and single them out by making stupid comments about what you see in their video if their camera's on.
Oh my goodness, that's absolutely horrible. That happens.
Well, there's a lot of horrible teachers out there, so let's not gloss that over. The other point that I made that I really liked was, utilizing the chat feature, whether you're on Zoom or Google Meet. It's a great opportunity if you've never done back channeling to try and integrate back channeling into your instruction and into these virtual sessions to either have a better way of having kids take notes or do exit tickets. There are just some things that you can do utilizing the chat function for good in a Google Meet or a Zoom or like I'll do using StreamYard and live streaming to YouTube. So yeah, that's episode 162. And I also informed the audience that the House of Ed Tech is going to be going on hiatus after episode 163 because of I'm a father, a husband, educator, podcaster, podcast editor, and something had to give as we go into whatever this is going to look like. And I'm putting the House of Ed Tech on a shelf until December, where I'll do the 2020 Smackdown. But there'll be a bit of a gap between episode 163 and 164. And that pained me to say because you guys both know that that's where this all started for me. So
yep. That's how we met.
I did that. You're my number one fangirl.
I mean, you could have given up the kids, Chris. I mean, come on. Podcast was there first, wasn't it?
Well, imagine if he gave up CrossFit.
Chris
Then
does
I'd be
CrossFit?
fat.
Wait, I've never heard of that before.
Chris
What's
does CrossFit?
Not at CrossFit. Yeah. So, but we're still doing this. So if you need your fix of me, and there's a few of you out there, be listening to this show because we'll still be doing Podcast PD, where you can hear my musings on the broader world of education.
Woohoo.
Stacey, wave your wand.
Wave my wand. First, I want to say thank you to Dave, thank you to Shay, and thank you to Eric for sending in his comments. And on that note, AJ, say goodbye.
Goodbye, AJ.
Say goodbye, Christopher.
Goodbye, Christopher.
Goodbye, Podcast PD.
Right, there's our edit point. Thank you for coming out tonight. To Jill, to Stephanie. Was there anybody else here?
Jill, Stephanie, Dave showed up.
The numbers indicate that people watch, but they didn't type a comment or come on the air. But, thank you for watching.
Thanks
we
for
appreciate you
watching.
coming out and supporting the show. Again, if you come out, we are going to give away some stickers each and every episode. And today, those stickers are going to Shay. So, Stacey, get his address and we will
I have it.
send those right out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So, Chris, since we're not recording, can I tell you the burpee thing?
Well, we're still live, but go ahead.
All right. So I sent it in our Google Hangout, but there's like a little meme that I saw where it says what a burpee is. It's a physical exercise that's for sadistic Fs. It's a physical exercise performed to let everyone know you CrossFit when your mouth is too fatigued from telling everyone you CrossFit. And it also rhymes with pointless. And then they talk about they do like the different steps in a burpee. So get in a position and take off your shirt. Taking off your shirt has zero bearing on the exercise, but CrossFitters love to take off their shirts. Number
Not this
2,
CrossFitter.
aggressively surprise the floor. And then number 3, celebrate successfully surprising the floor by jubilantly jumping up and touching the sky. And I edited some of that out because it is not all safe for work. As far
Was
as
there some
language
colorful
goes.
language in that joke? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Let me just say, I hate burpees.
I love burpees. They tire me out,
mo-
but they're awesome. They're
Most
fun.
often, I'll do like some of the burpees in the workout, and then I will switch to push-ups.
Right. So did your burpee have to include a push-up? Was that a
that's
CrossFit
like that's the down part.
Yeah, you have to do that, don't you?
No. Well, because there's a difference between like getting down on the floor and then like not everybody does a push-up in between.
Look, you
So
just
my
gotta
burpees don't
get up
include
to
the
get down. Gotta get up to get down.
I guess. But there are some people who get, you know what I mean? They get down on the floor and then they push up and then they get back up.
No, I don't add a push-up. It's like
Okay.
I lower myself down, I push up, the feet come in. I do a wide stance burpee because I can't,
Right.
I'm not where I need to be. Not as unround as I want to be, but we're getting there.
And then I also sent you that image of the burning Bitmoji classroom. It's kind of funny.
Where did you send that? Oh, oh my God. That's great.
Look at the TV.
Cool. Nice. Well, you know what? I'll throw that in the Voxer group. So those of you watching, if you're not in our Voxer group, go to podcastpd.com/Voxer and you can see the flaming Bitmoji classroom. Fun times.
Nice.
My friend said that to me. We were having dinner together. We were talking about Bitmoji classroom. She's like, I just haven't done one. I was like, yeah, no, me neither. And I don't want to poo-poo it because I know, like, for some people, they found great joy in creating it and it was cathartic and whatever. But I think, I don't know. For me, I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
I guess I took a big dump on Bitmoji classrooms during the show. Wow.
I didn't think it was that bad. I think you hit the salient points of like we really should be focusing on what's important, which is lesson creation.
Yes. Because there are teachers that, their Bitmoji classroom is gorgeous, but they don't have anything to teach. So
Yep.
There you go. If you're watching us and you're not in the Facebook group, join us there, podcastpd.com/Facebook, podcastpd.com/Voxer, and we can party 24/7 on those platforms. We will see you all on Sunday, and this pains me to say it, Sunday, September 6th.
Ugh.
But that'll be fun because we'll have Cousin Brucey, which I will have accompanying sound effects to go with that. I can promise you. And his co-authors. So we'll have a good time talking about creating media in the classroom. So that'll be fun.
That's Memorial or Labor Day. What weekend is that? That's Labor Day
Labor Day
weekend.
weekend. True that.
Do we?
Oops.
We're
Bye, Joe.
booked up. Where are we going? We're not. Who's barbecuing?
I'm going to queue, but I'm still going to be. We'll talk about it. We discuss. We figure it out. It's okay.
Bye, Jill. Woohoo.
Woohoo!
Bye,
All
Jill.
right, ending this, and we can chat.